All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever felt stuck? Like you're just running in place, going through the same cycles over and over again? Today, we're going to break down a really simple but seriously powerful framework from a speaker named Mark Larm. It's all about turning those frustrating circles into a solid foundation for real, lasting change.
And it all kicks off with this just gut-wrenching story. When Mark Larm was only 16, his dad was facing this life-or-death ultimatum from his doctors. And this is what he said. He was basically admitting complete and total defeat, trapped by a version of himself he literally couldn't imagine escaping. I mean, it's a story about feeling completely and utterly stuck.
And that feeling, I think a lot of us can relate to that, right? You know the pattern. You start off super strong, you've got all these great intentions, and then a few weeks later, you fall off. You have these moments of total clarity, but then the old habits, the old routines, they just suck you right back in. It's an incredibly frustrating cycle.
Now, for years, Larm believed what most of us do, that this was just a discipline problem. I just need more willpower. But then he had this massive realization, which he describes with this really powerful metaphor. He realized he was trying to build a skyscraper on sand.
And this, right here, is the crucial reframe. The problem isn't a lack of discipline, it's a lack of a solid foundation. You see, without that solid ground underneath you, any new structure, any new habit you try to build is pretty much destined to collapse. The issue isn't your discipline, it's the foundation you're building on.
So, how do you actually build that foundation? Well, Larm lays out these 5 stepping stones. We're going to walk through each one of them, but as you can see, it all starts with self-control and it all leads to creating your own personal launching pad.
So, where does this whole journey begin? It starts with the very first and, honestly, the most important stone of them all, self-control. Larm argues this isn't just one of 5 equal parts. No, this is the root system that feeds every single other fruit in your life.
This idea is actually inspired by a verse in Galatians. It's kind of cool. While self-control is often listed last among the fruits of the Spirit, Larem says it absolutely has to come first. And why is that? Because if you can master self-control, all that other good stuff, like peace, joy, faithfulness, it all becomes so much more natural and way more sustainable.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. Self-control isn't some magical trait you're either born with or you're not. No way. It's a muscle, and just like any other muscle in your body, it only grows when you put it under a little bit of stress, through friction, through resistance, and through consistent, small choices.
This leads to a pretty radical idea when you think about it. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you actually start to seek it out. You do the struggle on purpose. You voluntarily choose a little bit of discomfort to build the internal strength that you don't have, at least not yet.
So, what does this actually look like day to day? We're not talking about climbing Mount Everest here. We're talking about what he calls micro-struggles. Simple things, like taking a cold shower for a minute, waking up without hitting that snooze button, choosing a healthy meal when you're really craving junk. These small, deliberate acts of discomfort, they're like doing reps at the gym, but for your self-control muscle.
And here's the real payoff. The whole point of these micro-struggles isn't just to build better habits, it's to fundamentally change your identity. See, when you consistently master these small challenges, you start to become the kind of person who actually keeps promises to themselves. And that person can build absolutely anything.
Okay, so once that foundation of self-control is in place, and it's starting to feel solid, you can begin laying the next 3 stones. Think of these as the core pillars that are going to support everything else you want to build in your life.
The second stone is spirit. And really, this is all about finding some mental clarity by deliberately shutting off the constant noise. You know what I'm talking about. The endless scrolling, the TV, the distractions. It's about creating enough quiet space to actually hear your own inner voice and start directing your thoughts with purpose. The third stone is diet. But look, this isn't about appearance. It's about alignment. Lacan really focuses on anti-inflammatory eating because the idea is when your body isn't constantly fighting inflammation, your mind gets clearer, your spirit becomes more sensitive, and making good decisions just gets a whole lot easier. And the fourth stone is fitness. The key here is to shift your identity. Stop trying to be a gym person and just become a movement person. The goal is longevity and momentum, and it's built through simple, consistent movement like stretching or just going for a walk. It's about making movement a non-negotiable part of your day. So now, once you have self-control, spirit, diet, and fitness firmly in place, you finally have a foundation that is strong enough to build absolutely anything on. This is where the whole framework becomes uniquely yours. This is your launching pad. And check out how this works. The foundation is universal. It's the same for everybody, but the launch is totally custom. So for a business, that solid foundation leads to things like peak performance and employee retention. For a sales team, it creates relentless consistency and drive. For a church group, it builds spiritual clarity. You see, the same core principles create wildly different but very specific outcomes.
So, we've walked through the problem, the big reframe, and this whole 5-step solution. But now, the focus really turns back to you. After hearing all this, what does it all mean for you, right now, right here? I want to leave you with this one final, really empowering idea from Larm. The things you feel stuck on right now, the struggles, the frustrations, they aren't ceilings meant to hold you down. They are the very stepping stones you can use to build momentum and launch yourself forward.
So the real question is, what's your first micro-struggle going to be? What's the one small intentional choice you can make today to start building that foundation? Because according to this framework, you really are just one stone away from a completely different life. So, what's your next step?